I already know a lot of you aren't going to know what I'm talking about. Florida. For a lot of people, you must pass driver's training in order to get your driver's license. Well, to get your driver's permit, then to get your driver's... Besides the point, driver's education. Either you love it or you haven't tried it. Shut up! Driver's ed was the class you'd had to take in order to finally prove you got Riz. If we didn't see you in driver's ed, we already knew we weren't gonna see you driving in another 6 months. But driver's ed wasn't all that fun. Oh no. Driver's ed was the class at the end of the day that you would dread going to. Not only because it was from 6 to 8 p.m. but because the teacher was worse than the teacher from the Black Lagoon. I swear, coming back to school after the day had already ended felt like going to hell and back. Oh, I can't say that word. Going to the nether and back. No, you know what? Screw the nether. After 7 cruel hours of our lives, the last thing I want to do is go back to school. But at least we were allowed to bring in... Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, if you didn't have snacks in the driver's training class, then you weren't cool. So back on topic. Our teacher was a total Hey guys, my lawyer advised me not to finish that sentence. What? So we had a few teachers in driver's ed, actually. I don't know why. I think it was something about their pay distribution. But our first teacher, who I will call, Miss Johnson, was our teacher for the first 2 weeks. And she had some tight rules. Yeah. And these rules weren't just normal rules. What? If you got caught on your phone, you're done. You're cooked. You're kicked out. If you miss a day, you're gone. If you so much as speak or look at the teacher the wrong way, you might get kicked out of class. And this was true. One of our other teachers, who I will call Mr. McGill, would bring up this old story about this girl who failed driver's ed 3 times because she missed 1 day. Anyways, Miss Johnson assigned us a bunch of homework each night and forced us to read and stuff, which I'm not too mad about because now I can tell you what each of these road signs means. Fuck you! Back in class, we basically just studied and studied and studied, and none of it mattered actually because the only graded assignment was the test at the end of the class. So we did all that for nothing. What? But after that big written test, we had the driving test. But you can't just take the driving test so quickly, you fucking moron. It's time for practice. The practice started with waking up on the weekends at 5 a.m. to drive around in the school parking lot less than 1 mile per hour. I kid you not, this is what they had us doing. What am I speaking Greek? Next up on our practice, for like 4 days in a row, we had to practice driving around on the highway with a third teacher, who I'll call Mr. Baldy, but he's not that important. And we had to drive around in all the different biomes to test our real skills. And at the end of that, we got our pink slip. The pink slip was basically the permit, or your ticket to the permit, which is your ticket to your license. Once you got the pink slip, you then had to like wait or something. I don't remember. We basically had to practice in the car with an adult for 6 months with our permit. But 6 months later, we had class again. No! Yeah, but this time, we got no one other than Mr. McGill. Mr. McGill was like a homie for real. This guy was like a football coach or Big Justice's dad or something. This guy had a loud tone in his voice, and you could hear him whisper from across the room. You could also hear his phone ring every class. Your phone ringing. Your phone ringing. But this teacher was actually pretty cool. He wasn't nearly as mean as Miss Johnson, so for the rest of class, we basically did the exact same as we did before and take notes for a test that weren't required. But let's be real, how are you gonna pass the test without... Why, hello, how you doing? You really think you're gonna get away with that? This teacher would always know if someone was on their phone. And if you were on your phone, you were cooked! I specifically remember this one day in class when this kid's phone was ringing, and the teacher basically went up to him and said, "What's it gonna be, Brian? You gonna answer that phone? Or are you gonna go home?" Eventually, after a week's worth of homework, we were finally ready. And all that was left to do was schedule my road test. So I did, Within 2 weeks, I was taking my road test, and I failed.
You what?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I got like 4 points over the limit, but the lady who let me take my road test was so nice and let it slide, so I truly don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for that lady. And let me tell you, the very next day after I got my driver's license, I got pulled over. But that's a story for another day. Anyways, if you like this video and you want to see more like this, then make sure you like and subscribe. I actually had a lot of fun making this, so I hope you enjoyed. Anyways, thanks for watching and bye guys.